I'm Andrew Patterson from interest.co.nz and welcome to another in our business success stories. Today I'm with Chris Baird, Chief Executive at Fusion Electronics. Chris, welcome.
Hello Andrew, how are you?
So Chris, tell us a bit about the early phases of Fusion and particularly how as a business you actually got started.
Yeah, it was started by two brothers, a company called Fusion, about 11 and a half years ago. The brothers were the McNall brothers, and they had a passion for car audio. And they were very clever in regards to creating a brand, and that brand was Fusion, which is a nice bright green Fusion, which is in your face, if you like. So they were the guys that started it, and again, they did a great job with expanding the business internationally with a brand. But where they probably dropped off was actually product. And so what they were doing was taking products that were fairly common, Me Too products as we call them, branding it up, putting it in a nice box, and then doing some smart marketing and clever gear behind that. So that's how they got to, but they were running out of petrol. And then Peter Mayer, who was the founder of Navman, got an interest in the business, took a percentage of it, but then brought all his expertise. And his expertise is all about a product. Designing something that isn't the same as everyone else's. You've got to be different. You've got to break away from what everyone else is doing. Me Too products are just not going to survive in a tough market that we have, especially if you're a Kiwi company playing up against some of the biggest players in the world. And we play up against Sony, Kenwood, Pioneer, Alpine, JVC. These are big names, been in the game for a long time. So you've got to have something that's different.
So the business is all about audio, both in marine and car. Tell us a bit about the makeup of that business.
It is, but it's important to tag it. What we took over a car audio business, and we tagged it straight away as Fusion Electronics. So we immediately changed the name and we made it Fusion Electronics. Electronics allows a lot broader arrangement where we can fly into the future. But our game is entertainment. So entertainment at the moment is, for us, is car, is marine. But we're already expanding into RVs, caravans, spas, trucks, and the future would be to get into the home. So consumer. So we didn't want to, as companies do, we didn't want to put a fence around us and hold us into something like car audio. So it is a split. At the moment, the split between the two is that marine has now overtaken car, so we would be 60-40 this year, 60 marine, 40 car. It's just quite amazing when you think of how many cars there are and how many boats there are.
Obviously, you operate in a highly competitive space. So what then are the standout features for Fusion? Why would I be buying a Fusion product over the likes of Sony or Kenwood?
Yeah, and it's a big point. So the situation with that is on the marine side, which is where we saw the huge opening, was that our competitors were car audio companies doing what we call is painting a car audio product white and calling it marine. They just weren't taking the market seriously. So 6 years ago when I joined, we totally changed the focus and we did everything about designing products from ground up for marine. Now, to be brutally honest, there just wasn't anyone in the market doing it. There were some good names in the market. There was Clarion and there was Alpine and Sony. They were at Kenwood. They're all doing products, but they were definitely car products, inverted commas, painted white. So we just came in from a totally different tack, and that again is on the back of Pete. Peter Mayer is just a clever guy, and he really thought it through, and he knew what he wanted on his boat, and so we've always tried to bring that to the table.
And of course, when you've got that degree of backing from an entrepreneur, the likes of Peter Mayer, who's kind of driven and focused and everything, obviously that gives the business quite a bit of momentum, I would think.
Yes, and at the early stages, quite a lot of money. So as he rightly brings up every now and then. So the case is that to do this, it does cost. It costs money. The big important part with Pete is he doesn't see any boundaries to building a business internationally from New Zealand. And that is really important. He also doesn't believe in having a company that looks for small parts of the market to dominate. And that's what a lot of Kiwi companies do. They work on small areas that they want to dominate, and that's all great, except for you leave yourself totally exposed. If you're good in one area, it makes it very, very easy for someone to come along and knock you off. So he just sees it as, let's take them on. There's no difference. We're in New Zealand. and that's what we do. And he did that at Navman very successfully.
When you think about the typical customer for Fusion, is there one?
On the car side, traditionally it has always been the 18 to 26-year-old Yahoo that would put amplifiers and subwoofers, and in the old days would be the car next to you that would be going boom, 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 and would give me the shits, to be brutally honest. Now I look at that car and say there's $1,500 to $2,000 worth of product in there. I like them. That market is still around, and it's in the emerging markets especially, so places like India and Brazil, those sort of countries. It's getting less in countries like Australia and America. The money that kids have to spend is now, what do I spend my money on? Is it the latest iPhone? Do I go and buy the latest PlayStation? Do I get a 40-inch TV? There's a lot more areas, whereas in the old days, of course, first thing you did was buy a car and do it up. So that is moving and changing. But on the marine side, of course, it's a totally different animal. And it's been very difficult for us to expand our business and market ourselves, because on one side of the business, we're trying to market to 18 to 26-year-old predominantly males. And on the other side of the business, we're marketing to people that probably are at least 35 years old and older that buy a boat, and obviously doing reasonably well in whatever industry they're in. And there's definite disconnect between the two. So it's an interesting thing that we tussle with every day.
And what about keeping up? Because obviously trends change, technologies change. You're doing all your own technology development yourself.
Yes, we are. The room next to us is full of little smart engineers. So we actually have software engineers and hardware engineers, mechanical engineers. We do all of our designing and engineering here in New Zealand. We were lucky enough to win a couple of government grants from the New Zealand government. And I must say, I'm an Australian. I'm here running this business, but I find that the New Zealand government here has done an exceptionally good job with supporting companies like ourselves. And actually, without that support, we would have really struggled. So we actually have quite a good grant at the moment that's lasting 3 years, and it's allowed us to employ more people here in Auckland. Probably our biggest problem we have at the moment is actually getting quality engineers. You probably would hear that from a number of companies. So that's probably it. But no, it's actually designing and engineering everything here in New Zealand is really what it's all about.
So on that design process, do you adopt the Apple philosophy, which is we will understand our market and then try and produce something for them, or how much are you listening to your market? Where are you getting those insights to develop your innovation process?
Peter Mayer is one smart cookie. I tag him the Steve Jobs of New Zealand. He succinctly knows the market. He travels the world, and he's travelled the world for many, many years. He's on the boat side of a business. He's a mariner, has always been. He knows what he wants on his boat. He knows what his mates want, and he discusses product with people from all parts of the world. So he is really the catalyst for that. You would call him a very smart product manager, a guy that brings all that information, but he does it from his side, his thoughts, and obviously talks to all of our people that we have worldwide.
Chris, tell us a bit about some of the speed bumps, the points at which where you lost some sleep perhaps overnight with some of the problems that might have presented themselves on your radar.
And yes, you can probably see by the bags under my eyes, and I've gone a little bit greyer since being here in New Zealand, there's no questions. Every company that's growing, the hardest part is getting funds. Peter has put in all of the, if you like, seed money, and it was a considerable amount of money. We can't continue to pull from that. We have to live off our own back. And the bank obviously are gun shy. But having said that, our bank, and I don't know whether I could say, but ANZ Bank has been great. They've supported us through some very tough years. We are in the consumer electronic market. It is a tough market worldwide. As all companies do and banks have to do, they have to look at everything and weigh up their risks. But certainly I would have to say, the money side of it is the hard part, because as you're expanding your business by 30% every year, you need money to continue to grow. We own our own subsidiaries, America. We own it in Brisbane in Australia. We own one in Baird in Netherlands. And you really need to do that if you want control of your own destiny. That is the big difference that a number of Kiwi companies struggle with, is they'll go the low-cost option, which is to find a distributor. That's great, they get a distributor. That particular year, that distributor is great, but they run out of petrol, they bring on a new product from another brand, and suddenly you're pushed down the line. If it's your own, you control your own destiny. Very, very important.
Where will the opportunities be for Fusion in the future, particularly where your product growth will occur?
Our products are getting very close on the boat side. We're doing a product at the moment which we call the Saloon Series, and we've just started doing some products. But by next year, we will have the full Saloon Series. And I think if you want to call it something, it's a Bose-like product that, and they have a system called a lifestyle system, which goes into all the saloons of big boats. A saloon on a big boat is just like your home. And so the case is, if you can look after a saloon on a boat, you can certainly look after a home. The big difference that we see is that we're actually very good at doing everything external. So we can handle all the outside parts of the boat, the back deck, the foredeck, up on the fly bridge. So we need to be able to handle all those conditions, the water, the salt, and the sun. So our principle will be that if you look forward, if we can handle the outside of people's homes, around their pools, on their decking, in the verandas, etc., then probably the principle for us will be to take over the outside of people's homes and then work inside the home.
So when we think about success factors and key drivers in your success, what would they be?
We designed a product which was, quite clever little company. We've designed a couple of world firsts. So the first stereo that we did on the marine side was a world first, and that was a product that you actually had a stereo where you put the iPod inside the stereo. Everyone else was having a plug on a wire, and that was all great except for you were putting that on your boat. Your iPod's sitting out there exposed. So again, Peter's idea with the engineers was, why don't we come up with something a little bit clever? So we designed a product many years ago which seemed to work very well, and happened to be on the back of a little company called Apple. So from that, we started to then put the iPhone inside. So we've gone from the iPod to now the iPhone inside, and that has given us a huge amount of petrol worldwide. So designing a very clever product, a world-first product, really putting a lot of weight in behind that. We spent a lot of money to design it, and we've continued to improve that to the product that we actually just released, which we call our 700 series. And this particular product is honestly blowing the market apart. It is the best stereo in the world, no questions asked.
Wow. And on the manufacturing side, how does that part of the business operate?
Yep, the manufacturing part is probably one of the most difficult. Again, for a Kiwi company at Navman, what we had our own factory here in New Zealand. So for most of the early period of our growth, we had total control of what we were doing because our factory was here in Auckland. As we got into car GPS, the expansion was just so big we had to move that off to Asia. So our manufacturing is done in Asia. It's a difficult part. You have to continue to control, and basically you have to have staff always in Asia at your factories. At the end of the day, unfortunately, we can't do that here in Auckland. We just can't compete. We cannot get down to the prices that you have to get down to compete. So what you have to do, though, is make sure that you have really good control of your factories. And that sounds like something you can just roll off the top of your tongue, but it is something that really takes a lot of work and a lot of money.
And you do that by having your own people there?
It's the only way. You must have your own people there. Right? So, there's books that will just tell you over and over again that, what you're being told and what's actually happening are two different things. You just have to be there seeing it. I don't want to paint a picture of whatever, but, a lot of the factories we dealt with have their issues.
And finally, Chris, when you think about Fusion down the track, 5 or 6 years on, where would you like to see this business in the future?
This business is today is a successful business. We're turning over $30-odd million. We're employing a number of Kiwis. We've got all those outlets. There's no question. I don't want to pick a number, but certainly I would suggest that we will be a very strong international entertainment company that can hold its weight against any major player and give them a bit of heartache, which is something that we obviously want to do. We have no plans to do anything with this company. This is Peter's swan song, if you like. We don't have to sell it. We don't have to go public. The great thing about that is we can just expand this and just show again what a Kiwi company can do internationally.
Well, Chris, an exciting company and one that clearly is competing hard in its sector, but obviously New Zealand can still produce great electronics.
Absolutely. Yep. No questions, Andrew. It's no reason why we can't get out there and get amongst it in the world. It's tough. It's hard work, but that's just like being in the rugby game. You've got to be in it. You've got to go hard, and you can win, and that's what we're after.